If you're thinking about moving and you want to learn about what everyday life is going to be like in your new town, this is the place for you. On Open House, we sit down with local, top producing real estate agents to help you find the best places to live in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you don't want buyer's remorse and you want to find your dream town, we are here for you. So go ahead and book a free call with us and we'll help guide you to the area that is right for you. Now, let's jump in and learn about your new home.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in DC. My name is Zach, and today we have Kelly Davis with us. We're going to be talking about Aldie, Virginia. So Kelly, thanks for coming on. How long have you been a realtor, and what do you love about living in Aldie?
Sure. So I've been a realtor now for almost 7 years, and I've been in Northern Virginia for about 15 years, Aldi for 10 years. And there's a lot of communities here, upscale, great communities, and it's just really great for families.
Well, that's cool. I've noticed now that I'm learning more about the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, it seems like the more suburban communities, that's where you're going to find the family-centric vibe. So is that what you're dealing with in Aldi? And if so, can you tell me a bit more about it?
This is a family community, so you don't see a lot of young singles here. It doesn't really,
Okay.
Aldi doesn't really have the nightlife and the downtown areas that would really bring out your younger crowd. So majority of what you're going to find in Aldi is young families that are looking for great schools that want a great commute to like wherever they're working or 10 minutes from Dulles. So it's really central location for people that have families and want to focus on that.
Okay. So, what about retirement? Do you have a lot of retirees in Aldi, or is it mainly just, families with kids?
There's a lot of those 55 plus, active adult communities. We don't have any in Aldi, but we have some like right on the outskirts. So, I mean, I think there are retirees here, but most of the retirees that I know are probably going to some of those communities that are neighboring of Aldi, but not right here in Aldi.
Gotcha. Okay. You had mentioned good schools. I kind of want to start there because you're kind of driving in on the family side of things. What schools do you have available in the area? Are they just public? Do you have some private? What does that look like?
My kids go to public schools, so I know a lot about the public schools.
Sure.
Aldi is one of the fastest growing cities in Virginia.
Hmm.
So the architecture and infrastructure is trying to catch up. So within a 5 mile radius, we actually have 5 elementary schools. But of those 5 elementary schools, 3 of them are rated extremely high, and the other two are still high. But we're talking like eights, nines, 8 and 9 rated schools. So the school system here, and they're all relatively new, which I think is great. So because it's catching up, the school my kids go to, Hovatter, started last year. Then Goshen Post started 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And then you have a couple that are still, I think the oldest one is 10 years old. So they're
Gotcha.
relatively newer. And then, we have 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. And this eastern side of Aldi area, there's some couple schools on the western side of Aldi, but the one that's the most populous is that. So there's a lot of, I think, charter schools in the area. So Middleburg has a couple that, in Middleburg is a neighboring town. It's 10 minutes away, a couple schools there. And then Paul VI Catholic High School, which is,
Hmm.
I think it's known throughout the US. A lot of, I think they're really known for baseball and basketball. So I
Hmm.
think one of the a couple NBA players came out of that school. Anyway, that one just moved from Fairfax to Chantilly, but right on the Aldi border,
Oh,
um,
wow.
a couple years ago. So we have that school.
That's really cool. So schools you had mentioned is really important for people who are moving to Aldi, and you had also mentioned work and commute. So Aldi, it's looking like geographically it's not super tiny, but the population, the populated areas of Aldi are kind of concentrated. So are people working in Aldi, and what do they do? And if not, where are they commuting to?
Aldi doesn't actually have any, like no large companies are headquartered in Aldi. So
Sure.
I wouldn't say there's like a specific business or company that's driving people to Aldi. But what Aldi has is, I think, the central location for if you're going to, Tyson's Corner, which is McLean, where a lot of, government contractors and other types of companies, Amazon just came to Arlington. So I
Yeah.
think that our Aldi is a location where you can commute easily to a lot of different places that have these headquarters. And then again, I mentioned we're 10 minutes from Dulles. You have to fly travel for work. We're very close to the airport. I would say since COVID, my experience is that a lot of people didn't have to go back or didn't have to go back full time. So they're not really worried about commutes anymore. In fact, I would say a lot of the clients that I have are less concerned about commute and more concerned about community, because it's where you're going to live and be. And
Yeah.
Aldi has some of the best communities. So it's less
Gotcha.
about commute from what I've seen. I mean, I think it's still a factor, but it's
Sure.
really where you're going to be.
For the commuters and just for those that want to go to the bigger city on the weekends, I mean, what kind of drive are we looking to get to Arlington, Alexandria area?
Well, that question does matter whether you're talking about weekday or weekend, because
Sure.
traffic here is in all of Northern Virginia is obviously not sometimes not great. But I would say to get into DC, you're probably looking at an hour on the weekend. Arlington, Alexandria, you're probably 45 minutes on the weekend.
Hmm.
And then it just goes up from there.
Gotcha. On the work days and
Right.
rush hour and stuff.
So I would say I think what the majority of the jobs that most people do around here is government contracting. And the government contracting, they're not going, I mean, obviously I'm speaking as a whole here, but like most of the people that I know, the government contractors are in Reston, Tysons, Chantilly, Fairfax. So the
Okay.
commutes, they're not going all the way into Arlington or DC.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So I mean, we all know there's tons to do in the bigger cities like Arlington, Alexandria, DC area, which is great. But I know that there are a couple other towns nearby, like Middleburg and Chantilly, that still have quite a few things to do. So when it comes to entertainment, if you want to go to, a couple nice restaurants or go shopping, where are you looking to do that when you live in Aldi?
Yep. So what's great is we're kind of central to a lot of different things. So like when you live in Ashburn, and which is the neighboring town right to the north of us, you pretty much stay in Ashburn or Chantilly. So, but here we're 10 minutes from Ashburn. So basically anything that you want to do, you can get there within 10 minutes of Aldi. So there's tons to do in Middleburg. There's tons to do in Ashburn, Chantilly, even south of us, Gainesville, Haymarket area. Within 10 minutes, if you name it, you can get to it. One of the other things that's pretty cool that's close to us, actually, even from people from DC come out here to get there, is this place called Jiffy Lube Live. It's an outdoor amphitheater where all the famous musicians come. So they have a whole series, like Imagine Dragons was just here a couple months ago with Brian, country, rock. I mean, like everybody comes to Jiffy Lube. So
that's really cool. So you said that's about 10 minutes away?
And I think it's technically Gainesville, but it's 10 minutes from the eastern side of Aldi.
Wow. That's really cool. So Aldi seems very accessible,
Yes.
which is nice. And there's a lot of things super close by, but you've talked about the community aspect of Aldi itself. So I know that city events tend to contribute a lot to that. Does Aldi do any specific events like farmers markets or holiday celebrations or anything like that?
It was funny. So when I was prepping for this and thinking through it, I don't think that Aldi has a lot of things. So like there's something called Gilbert's Corner that on the weekends you get a lot of food trucks that come. There's actually this barbecue place that people come from all over because it's the most amazing barbecue ever. So that's not really an event, but like from a farmer's market type perspective, like that's in Gilbert's Corner, which is part of Aldi kind of every weekend. But I would say from like an events perspective, what's really great is the communities here, they're such planned newer communities that they really take on events that the events are on such a massive scale. It kind of takes on what you would say is a city scale. So Willowsford, which is the neighborhood that I live in, it's pretty big. They have an event for basically every holiday. The 4th of July presentation that they put on, or rivals like DC's fireworks. Like
Wow.
it's pretty amazing. They have to shut down roads. The fire trucks come in, like the fireworks are amazing. Then they do like Easter egg hunts for the kids. There's social clubs. I mean, there's everything that you can kind of think of um, from that perspective. But I think in Aldi, it's very community based. So like Creighton Farms, which is where one of the cool things about Aldi is the Washington Commanders football team. A lot of the players actually, when they get drafted to the team, end up moving to Aldi. And one of the two neighborhoods I moved to is Willisford, which is the one I live in, or Creighton Farms, which is its own country club thing that has its own events and its own um,
Hmm.
things going on. So
It sounds like your experience in Aldi is definitely going to be influenced by the neighborhood you live in, which is
yes.
not always the case because a lot of neighborhoods and other places kind of just blend together. So that's really cool. Is there an event that your neighborhood puts on that's like your absolute favorite?
Well, I already mentioned, I mean, it's the 4th of July. Like I
Yeah.
actually have friends come from other communities and stay with me to watch the fireworks. You can actually see them from like a path by my house. It's really cool. But,
Huh.
but yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of 4th of July. So I might have to visit Aldi someday. But so things to do. I know there's quite a few entertainment options in nearby cities. What about nature within Aldi? Because I know that you had mentioned the West is a little bit more rural. That there's much larger lots and the houses are further apart and it's more historic. Do you guys have any like parks or any conservation areas or trails or anything like that in Aldi?
Oh, I mean, there's several of them. I couldn't actually name all of them, but absolutely, there's so many places to go and hike and trails where you can either like mountain bike or walk or whatever. But I mean, I know where they all are. I don't know that I could give
Yeah.
you a name to find them, but absolutely, like that's one of the things that people love about this area is it is very suburban, but then you can get very rural too, where you can do all of those things.
That's really cool. Because yeah, I know a lot of people move to Virginia for the nature. It's pretty up there.
Right.
I know that that's important to quite a few people. Is there any history about Aldi in particular that's unique, or is it just the general DC area?
No, no, I mean, it's actually kind of funny. So, prepping this, I had to look it up. So when I first moved here, you just heard about the Aldi Mill all the time.
Mm.
And it's still there. It's right off of Route 50. But the backstory is back in 1765, the Mercer brothers created the Aldi Mill, and that's really what put Aldi on the map. Was having it became a little milling town way back in 1765. And then it does have some significance. James Monroe, when he was president, actually built his estate Oak Hill here, which is still here in Aldi, Virginia. He was there until about a year before he died, and then there was a Battle of Aldi for the Civil War. So there are some things, but I would say if you mention Aldi to anybody, they're going to be like, "Isn't that where that mill thing is off of 50?"
Huh.
Which is still, it's not a working mill anymore, but that's pretty much when people think of Aldi, they think it's actually that little town where the mill is, but it's grown up and so much
Yeah.
more than that now.
Is the mill on the west side?
Yeah, it's like if you're heading towards Middleburg,
Gotcha.
it's there on the left, but
Hmm.
right off of Route 50.
Do they do tours of the like that general's house and the mill, or are they just sitting there?
No, they're just sitting there. I think at one point it was open. I don't think it's open anymore. And actually, James Monroe's house, when I was looking it up, is actually privately owned. It's not even a museum or a park. Like it's actually private residence. So someone was actually able to buy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there any wineries or breweries nearby?
Oh yeah. So I mean that's another great thing about Aldi is that there's the proximity to several wineries and breweries. I mean, within 10 minutes of, I would say 5 to 10 really, really good ones. If I had to name a couple that you definitely don't want to miss, Stone Tower Winery, really good wine. And I would say, if you're comparing to California and Europe, a lot of people don't want to put Virginia wine on the map, but Stone Tower actually really has some that I think could rival that. And from a brewery perspective, Lost Barrel Brewery, which is right here in Middleburg, has some really good beers, and it's a really good outdoor location too. So you can bring the kids, hang out. So not only does it have good beer, but it's also a fun just hangout spot.
Hmm. I've heard of some breweries that have, games for kids outside so the parents can kind of do their thing. Does it have
Yeah.
similar to that?
Yeah, there are like, there's cornhole and there's several different buildings and places where the kids can run around and yeah.
That's really cool.
So yeah.
Dang. So there's Aldi is really interesting. I've talked with agents about quite a few different cities, especially in Virginia, where they're suburban, but they have a rural aspect to them. There's not like a ton in the city limits, but it's so accessible to a bunch of different things, which arguably is better than just being in one spot that has everything because you get the variety. So,
Right.
if someone's wanting to move to Aldi, I know you mentioned there's two main neighborhoods that they have to choose from. How
There's
much?
several. I think those are the two that came to mind from like a coveted or upscale perspective, but it ranges. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the range that you're going to find in Aldi, and how much are you looking to spend for how much house?
So I don't know if you know, so Loudoun County as a whole, so Loudoun County, Virginia, kind of goes Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun if you're moving away from DC.
Hmm.
Loudoun County was recently named one of the wealthiest or the wealthiest county in all of the US. And
Wow.
within that, Aldi has the highest median house price within Loudoun County. So putting
Wow.
that in perspective, Aldi is not a cheap place to live.
Gotcha.
Um,
What's like the least expensive house that you can find, and what size is it?
so I mean, we do have a couple neighborhoods that have condos, but you can't really get into them for. I mean, 400 is probably what I would say, maybe high 300s,
Hmm.
but you're looking at high 300s for a one bedroom condo.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the median price around here, because the majority of what you're going to find at Aldi is single families, so that's what also drives the price up a little bit. Is because we don't have those small condos, or many of them, bringing the price back down. But median price here is 850,000. So that's kind of average
Yeah.
of what you're going to find.
What does it go up to?
I mean, millions, but so I would say that in this area, like Creighton Farms, where a lot of the Washington Commanders, the average, I mean, they go up really high, but I would say the average in there is 2 to 3 million for a
Okay.
home. And then you have some that are much higher than that, but that's kind of the
Cool.
average in there. Willowsford, which is another area that a lot of people talk about, you can't really get into here for less than $1 million now.
Hmm.
So that's kind of where things are at.
Well, that's definitely good to know. There are people that can totally afford that, and so Aldi is going to be a place that they're looking to live. So, if you guys are thinking about moving to the DMV area, check out our contact details in the description. Give us a call or a text. We'd love to connect you with real estate professionals like Kelly who know what they're talking about and know the area. So, Kelly, thank you for coming on today and talking about Aldi. I definitely learned something new.
All right, of course, anytime.
Take care.